briefing has given so much hope for a better future. Unfortunately, the Brotherhood's new economic order does not challenge the arguments and assumptions of Mubarak's socio-economic structure in terms of market trade and giving priority to private sector and foreign investment. It is based on empowering that structure without corrupt practices. It basically concentrates on the 1% of the Brotherhood, which refers to the small ultra-wealth clique that benefits the new economic order. Now, how would PR ensure that the change it promised will not be of the same rhetoric as that of the Brotherhood, and that it will benefit the 99% of our population instead? Dato Seri.
Thank you. I have followed, of course, closely the Arab awakening, Arab Spring, and spent some time, particularly in Tunisia, meeting the MPs and the cabinet, the new cabinet in Tunisia, an invitation by Sheikh Qanusi. Unlike the Pakatan Rakyat experience, they came as a result of the turbulence in the Middle East. We came more prepared. We have accepted that the change and transition through a democratic process, assuming that we have fair, free elections. Because of that, we have crafted a relatively more elaborate economic agenda. And as far back as 2007, the framework in the name of illicit economic agenda to replace the new economic policy. And this was deemed to be extremely controversial. But we need competitiveness, which we have lost. We still need foreign direct investments. We support, as a matter of principle, market economy and privatization. But what is lacking in this government is the issue of good governance, of accountability. Because we lack that, we tended to cast aspersion of blame on the principle of market economy. Now, market economy, we're accepting for very strong ideological left position, can be supported on condition you do express adequate concern and understanding on the notion of justice, well articulated by Amartya Sen, or John Rawls' distributive justice, which we term as affirmative action based on need, in place of affirmative action based on race. And worse, the assumption that the new economic policy, that's economic will benefit the large number of Malays, we have debunked this thesis, suggesting that the new economic policy now is proven to enrich the family members and the cronies of UMNO. So we will have to depend on direct investments. Malaysia is a trading nation. What is lacking is there is clearly a neglect of the welfare of the workers, housing for the workers. I remember, Mr. Chairman, pardon me giving a slight example on our initial experiment privatization of TNB, LLN those days. The first year track record, very impressive. I think they registered about 400 million ringgit profit. So they came to the Minister of Finance then and showed a great relief and satisfaction. And of course expecting accolades from me. Yes, I did. But I did caution them. I said, now that the TNB is privatized, where is your public housing program for your workers? Where is the special education program initiative for your students? That's why we started University Tenaga. So I think this is what's lacking these days. You know, you privatize, and to put kids young, is it as a result, is no privatization, but the end result is privatization. Yeah. That is what's happening. You know, the IPP is a classic example. Of course, people say, well, Anwar, you're going to absorb yourself because you were Minister of Finance. But on record, Tan Sri Ani Aruk is still alive. He was Chairman LLN. He opposed. I had to resolve the battle between him and EPU. This is not the Treasury decision. All privatization in this country decided by the Prime Minister's office on the recommendation of the Economic Planning Unit of the Prime Minister's Department. So I call up for this understanding. Ani Aruk, representing the TNB, suggested that the entire agreement is clearly not only biased, but cannot be defended because it is biased in favor of YTL those days. YTL, Malakoff, Genting Sanyen, and Ananda Krishnan's PD Power. So you have actually one Malaysia there. With the Malay, with the Chinese and the Indian. Of course, we have ignored the Iban and the Gadazans for a long time. So for the last 4 years in Parliament, we have been insisting. We did not oppose privatization, but the entire provision is anti-people because you actually provide an average 90 to 20 billion ringgit of subsidy to these rich companies, and the terms really, I mean, if not an exaggeration to say, is fraudulent in a sense. So when I met the group of investors in economics, coordinated by the economist, they asked me, they said, Anwar, how do you then expect people to come in when you start talking about changing the terms of the old agreement? I said, no, the new government, when we take over, inshallah, will defend every single agreement, excepting for the fact that we have evidence to show that there is fraud, corrupt practice, or the agreement which is clearly not deemed to be fair and just. So I think that you would certainly appreciate, because otherwise you expect us to defend every single law. So the problem is not privatization or market economy. The problem is unbridled power. If you understand Wall Street Journal, it's very interesting. Wall Street movement, Occupy Wall Street. It's interesting. Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street comes about the same time. Arab Spring, people clamoring for freedom and reform. And Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, people cautioning against unbridled freedom, and particularly among the corporate elites, the complicity of corporate elites, Wall Street and Capitol Hill, the political elite. The complicity in their arrangement, interest, that is of course against the interest of the people. So I think we must learn. And when I went to Tunisia, speaking to the 60 MPs, I said, look, I'm all for Arab awakening or Arab Spring, but please do learn from the frustrations and criticism expressed by the protesters of Occupy Wall Street, because they have shown where excessive capitalistic venture, summarized brilliantly by none other than George Soros. Tomorrow's Utusan Malaysia headline would be Anwar defends George Soros. But George Soros, in a brilliant article, said this. Now I may disagree with him in many other things, but this is important and pertinent and relevant in our discussion and discourse. One, that the problem with Wall Street is, number one, greed. Number two, the aversion to risk. It's public funds after all. State funds, public funds, you don't care. You invest, you fail, you get a tune sheet. So I think we, in this new government, must learn that experience. We clamor for reform, we want to we support market economy, it must be strong in terms of distributive justice, but then I understand the idea of justice. Then you must also avoid the pitfalls of excessive, unbridled capitalism presently practiced by the United States and Europe. Thank you.